Well, this is Nicholas Bell with Ion Cinema. I'm here with Peter Strickland at the Toronto International Film Festival, where his new film, In Fabric, is playing in Midnight Madness. So I'm a big fan. I've seen your previous three. Duke of Burgundy was one of my favorites of the year when that came out.
Thank you.
So I'm interested in your kind of the origins and inspirations, because it was a year ago, actually, at TIFF that I read about In Fabric, and here we are a year later. So could you talk about the process of this particular project?
Well, I guess clothing was central to the whole thing. Just the haunting element of clothing, how a human stain, whether it's sweat, blood, cum, any kind of secretion really, it's something that provokes a very strong reaction in people, whether it's disgust, arousal, or sadness if it's someone who died. There was a haunting of wearing something that someone else wore. It's, there was an element of transformation to that. So really the film is just exploring ideas about clothing, how we feel when we see clothing worn by other people, how we feel when we wear clothing, how we feel transformed, how we feel inadequate when we put something on and we hate our bodies, how we get turned on by material like Reg with his tight fetish, when you have Babs with her body dysmorphia, that she always thinks she's huge in something. So really it's just exploring these ideas within the framework of within a genre framework really. So that haunting is a device really to look at these ideas. And for me, I wanted just to build up this narrative with these characters to just really to make you care about them, that to feel the shock of. What I didn't want to do is have them as disposable characters or characters that were punished or judged.
Right.
So it's not like they're going on in the shed to have sex and then they're killed. It's always beyond me why anyone should be killed for having sex, but I want an audience to feel they would buy the same dress in Sheila's shoes. So it's important to show her struggles at home, her frustration at work.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, she's not a consumerist, and none of the main characters are consumerist. It exists within this consumerist nightmare world with these ladies fighting and the queues and so on. There is that is in the equation, but what was important, that the dress is random in its menace. It is illogical. If Sheila died because she was a consumerist, then it would feel logical. But for me, the dress would lose some of its threat.
Right. I mean, consumerism as an opiate of the masses, to me in the film is, like the world it's set in. But I read the characters as their vulnerability is social expectation, because they randomly come into possession of this dress based on Sheila's going on a date or the bachelor party. Like there's some excuse for them, and then the kind of the ramifications of having to go out and do this thing that they're expected to do.
I mean, there's an element of that, of course, but I think all of us feel every now and again it would be good to put something new on. I mean, this is the same shirt I wore 4 years ago when I was doing the Duke. I have worn other shirts since, believe it or not, but so I think even without the date, Sheila would have she's so caught up in pleasing her bosses, pleasing her son, dealing with his awful, terrible girlfriend.
Yeah.
But Reg, absolutely, yeah, as you say, so the very British social expectation of a stag night, that the social consequences for Reg if he doesn't put on a dress.
Right.
And being Reg, he doesn't want to let the side down, who hates not, he's someone who wants to please his friends, he wants to please his fiancée. So yeah, I mean, you're right, there is a social expectation for Reg and for any person getting married in the UK.
Right.
Because I should know, I fly to Hungary on Fridays, and it's always full of stag groups, so I'm an expert in stag behaviour.
I saw Dentley and Soper's felt like it's a conduit to hell, basically, and therefore all of our shopping consumerism is, not only hypnotizing people, but it's actually dragging them down and what they're infected almost. Is how I almost kind of read the finale.
Well, it becomes full circle. They become the sweatshop workers who feed this whole machine. And again, I didn't want to be too heavy about it because I would be a hypocrite, because I'm sure something I'm wearing now, whether it's my socks or my shirt, was made by someone who was very badly paid or not paid at all, working a ridiculous amount, just very unreasonable hours. So I think, this kind of never-ending hell where the characters are locked in this sweatshop, having to churn out more and more from their bodily fluids, from their blood. I think that, to me, that said enough. I didn't want to batter the message any more than that.
No,
it's not even a message. It's just an idea.
Yeah,
to present.
Kind of a subtext. I think it's nicely threaded in there. Besides some of maybe the more obvious inspirations, which are what I would assume like giallo titles from the 70s, I thought a lot of Godard's A Married Woman.
Which I've never seen.
Oh, okay,
right.
because he...
Embarrassingly. But...
No, I mean, I've only seen it very recently, but it has all these montages of advertisement, because the main protagonist is kind of she's a superfluous woman who, is obsessed with clothing, basically. And I thought a lot of that...
Oh, it sounds great.
Was
I should watch
familiar.
That. Well, it's funny you mention that, because now it comes back, and I forgot about this. There was the William Klein film, around the same period, Who Are You, Polly Magoo?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fashion, basically.
Yes.
And there were quite a few montages in that, and I loved the feel of them. So it was coming from that, it was coming from shopping catalogues, it was coming from a lot of the industrial records I used to buy, like Throbbing Gristle or Nurse with a Wound, who would always use these black and white collages, often with mannequin hands juxtaposed over them. It had a very, very, very uncanny feel to it all, absolutely. But I mean, giallo, I love giallo, but honestly, it was not really an influence on this. Maybe subconsciously, in terms of the feel, but it was not really on my mind at all. It was more, I guess, people like Kienholz, the sculptor, did these terrifying mannequin sculptures with this horrific resin dripping down their faces. Really, really nightmarish.
I didn't think there wasn't any one title in mind. The overall vibe of the film is reminiscent. I also thought of Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant a little bit with the mannequins.
I love that film. I mean, that was more of an influence on the Duke of Burgundy, to be honest. And obviously, Italian horror or giallo was an influence on my second film, The Barratt Sound Studio. But this one, I was thinking of M.R. James. Well, not M.R. James himself, but the M.R. James adaptations for television, the BBC in the 1970s. But transplanting the misty beach or the haunted house with a very prosaic world. What was interesting for me, I always like to road test my ideas on friends. So I said, the Barratt Sound Studio, I'm going to have it all set in a sound studio, and everyone just thought this is going to be boring as hell. If someone says this is going to be really boring, I like it. It's a low expectation.
Yeah, right.
maybe it's my lack of confidence. Maybe the expectation's too high. I just get scared. But so when I said I'm going to make a film about the sales in Reading, essentially, even though it's not called Reading, like a Thames Valley town. Again, my friends thought this was going to be the most boring film ever, which always think, right, if they say that, I'm going to start writing a script. But then, you sort of think about that, but actually, if you're doing a stock take at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're looking out the window and you see this eerie queue of people lining up, you're going into this Romero Dawn of the Dead territory. It is uncanny.
Yeah, I mean,
the mannequins.
Is it Black Friday in the U.S. after Thanksgiving? The sales, how people responded. It's like a cult phenomenon, kind of. It is disturbing, but and I think you hit on that quite well in this. I guess soundtrack too is very important to your films. I've noticed, and I loved the soundtrack for this as well.
Thank you.
just a very great eerie mood. Is that, at what point do you know what the soundtrack's going to be?
Well, that was very interesting, because usually I write the script when I ask someone to do it.
Right.
I've been very, very lucky where I'm tempting fate now, because as soon as I say it will go wrong. But each person I asked, it was a yes.
Okay.
Because then, like, I asked someone, I get a no, we'd have to go to someone else. So with broadcast, they were the first choice. That was Trish Keenan and James Cargill.
Yes.
Cat's Eyes were the first choice. Rachel Zephyra from Canada, Faris Badwan, and again with this one, Cabinet of Antimatter, first choice. But the difference with this one was I didn't have a script then. I didn't have an idea. I met Tim Gain from Cabinet of Antimatter because I wanted to put out one of their records. I was a fan of Stereolab, who kind of got me into Giallo in a way. They were talking about. No, I remember now. They played. There was a cinema called the Scala in London. I used to go there in the early '90s, and there was a Scala night with a band called Huggy Bear, an amazing band, Stereolab.
Okay.
And they're going to show the bird with the crystal plumage.
Yeah.
That's 1992, I think, late 1992. That's the first time I've heard of Dario Argento, and just the title alone,
yeah,
just conjured all kinds of things in my head. I remember, so Stereolab were talking about those creepy films, the soundtracks. So when I met with Tim Gain, I think in 2014, and we just talked about films a lot. And afterwards, I thought, well, I asked him if he would consider making some demos for me to write to, because usually when I write, I don't have a band, so I have to use usually Giallo soundtracks to write to. And the issue with that is I become very attached to the music.
Right.
And it's very hard to unglue myself when I'm editing. So I said, please just get me some music so I don't have to listen to, Cipriani or Nicolai or Morricone and all this. So he did these mostly drones, and I think listening to these drones, I started to think about washing machines and write little washing machine mantras. So it kind of came organically that way, really. But I really enjoyed working with him. I think he's got a great sensibility. He's got this encyclopedic knowledge of soundtracks. And I think the important thing for us was not to get bogged down in aping anything, or even aping the period, which is 1993. All these scenes in the nightclub, and I asked him, just do something futuristic. Think about making music now. Don't think about making something sound like it was 1993.
Right.
So I just try to give him as much freedom as possible, not to restrict himself to the instruments he normally uses in his band. So he used the Celeste, the harpsichord. So yeah, it was
That was great. I asked about soundtrack too because I think that's how I was tracking another project you were doing at one point called the beginning of spring.
Oh god,
was
that's a while back.
Yeah,
that's a while back, isn't it? That fell through.
Yeah.
Well, an actor pulled out. I will spare him the embarrassment. I was kind of pissed off with him, to be honest. Not for pulling out. I think I put a lot of work into a new draft specifically for him, and he just didn't have the courtesy to say he's pulling out. So I just thought that was just a bit rubbish.
Yeah, that's.
And after that, I just fuck this, and I pulled out as well. But it was it was a beautiful story. It's a shame it was an adaptation. It was not my work, but I loved this world of printing, and the thought of working with paper, and the thought of working with Cyrillic text, and these very old printing presses from the early 20th century. I mean, that's anything of objects is right up my street.
Yeah. There's kind of a fetishistic object thing throughout your filmography thus far. That makes sense. That would have been your first adaptation then?
That would have been, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, to be honest, I feel much more at home writing my own stuff. Yeah. That is my comfort zone, and I like comfort zones. For me, it's hard to know what will happen in the future, but ideas will run out at some point. But if the ideas are there, I'd rather just do my own stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed you like to use Fatma Mohamed.
Yeah,
who's excellent. And always a great touch. Then I think she's, she steals every scene she's in for sure in Fabric. But what can you tell me about? She's started in the beginning with you, right?
Yeah, we started together.
Yeah.
It was her first film. It was my first film. I saw a photograph of her. I was looking for actors in Transylvania for my first film, and I used to go around theatres, and they would have, because I don't know how it is in Canada, but in Romania the theatres are repertory, so the actors are committed to work there the whole year.
Oh, okay.
So they have photographs because they are the in-house actors. They're always there, which is kind of beautiful, but it's actually incredibly annoying as a film director because you're always dealing with their bosses. Mm-hmm. They say no, they can't turn up for filming. The only time they're free is in the summer. So we've been Fabric. We had to fly Fatma over 3 times because she had performances.
Wow.
The other actors. I would love to work with Tibor again, who played the rapist. Mm-hmm. I tried to get him for this short film I did with Fatma, and we just couldn't get him. Hilda, which has moved to America now, but. So I saw a photograph of Fatma looking very mysterious, almost sad, and I didn't know she had such a comic side until I got to know her. She had a very small part in Cotton and Marga, but I just liked her attitude. We had to do this scene with her, and we had other stuff to shoot. So she literally slept in a car until 5 a.m. outside the house where we were shooting, and then just turned up and did a scene without complaining.
Wow.
But yeah, I just like with Fatma that she can transform.
Yeah, for sure.
Every film I feel like it's a different person. So with Miss Luckmore, that was written for Fatma. The other parts I didn't really have any actors in mind, but that was specifically written with her voice in mind, with her sensibility in mind. And so that's the beauty of finding someone you can trust and you can collaborate with.
Right.
And you can have that excitement when you write a part.
I guess as we're getting close to the end of our time, but speaking of other projects, you had also mentioned, I think it was during the press for Duke of Burgundy, that you were working on something for San Francisco, like in the gay 70s, like a Castro area. Was that? I think I remember reading that in an interview with you.
Close.
Yeah.
Close. New York, 1980.
New York. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
But you say San Francisco is actually influenced by Patrick Cowley, who was in San Francisco. Very difficult to fund it. It's all men. It's a lot of sex, and because it's set in New York in 1980 with lots of nightclubs, it's very expensive to make.
Oh, yeah.
So if it was low budget, I reckon we could have done it by now. I wrote it 6 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
I've been trying to get it made since 2012. It's just a very, very difficult film to fund. But I was watching a lot of gay porno. I really got into Wakefield Poole.
Okay.
He did a film called Bijou, which is just the most remarkable thing. It's unlike. I think what I like about pornography is there are these passages where, because they're not influenced by money or anything like that. Well, I don't. I think with someone like Paul, he just did films for himself, and there's just something completely unique. You could see that film in an art gallery and get something out of it. So
yeah.
The lighting, for me, film is about. My personal taste is to enter another world. I was never into stuff like The Usual Suspects where I have to work something out. I'm not interested in that. That's just my personal taste. I want to enter a world.
Right.
So I think that's really important. That kind of psychedelic feeling. That's the same with the shops in a way. That, I like entering a world. I don't want to click online on something. I want to go into a space. Yeah. So with that film, it's called Night Voltage. We're still trying to get it made.
Okay.
We're still trying.
Good.
But it's not easy.
Because hearing you talk about it before, immediately I thought of cruising and maybe something a little more.
It's a bit more joyful.
Yeah.
I love freaking, but
yeah, I do
this
too, but
is a lot more of a celebration of sex.
Okay.
Than anything,
so it's the self-loathing. And
there's no self-loathing. No, in this film, it's pure joy.
Awesome. Well, I hope it gets made.
Me too. Yeah.
And then I guess we'll end on that.